This video continues my series reviewing every major film and TV adaptation of The Three Musketeers. This one covers 2011 through 2023. This is where things get especially interesting. Bigger spectacles, modern reinterpretations, and some very bold creative choices. Here we go. First we have The Three Musketeers. This is how you do a weird reimagining right. Think steampunk, borderline cyberpunk musketeers, and I am so here for it. I genuinely don't understand all the bad ratings. If you're going to be different, go all out, and this movie absolutely does that. These are now some of my favorite actors for the Musketeers. It helps that I already liked them going in, but they each bring something unique while still feeling true to the characters. My least favorite was D'Artagnan. He just didn't stand out as much, though I did appreciate that he actually looks younger than the others, which makes sense. I also really liked King Louis XIII here. He's young and flamboyant, but not one-dimensional for once. Watching him and D'Artagnan bond like awkward teenage boys was honestly adorable. Completely unrealistic, but then again, so is everything else in this movie. Visually, it's gorgeous. Filmed at Versailles with massive set pieces, including airships. Yes, airships flying over Westminster Abbey. Even with all the changes, they kept the diamond plot and somehow made it work. And the action? So much fun. Creative, over the top, and yes, airship battles. I get that this speaks to my love of fantasy, and it's not going to be for everyone. But gimme whimsical, anything-goes musketeers any day. This features some familiar faces, including Ray Stevenson as Porthos, Luke Evans as Aramis, and Orlando Bloom as the Duke of Buckingham, who, by the way, looked fabulous. The film topped the box office in several countries and did especially well in Japan, but struggled in the US and received mostly negative reviews overall. I'm okay being the odd one out with my opinion on this. It's 110 minutes, rated 13+. Next up, The Musketeers. The first episode of this TV series is rough. It feels like a cop show crossed with a Western, just set in Musketeer-era France. There's no camaraderie at first, and D'Artagnan doesn't even want to be a musketeer. It really makes you wonder what kind of show they were trying to make. But once you get a few episodes in, it finds its footing. There is an overarching story, but it's mostly episodic, so watching out of order isn't a huge issue. The tone is very light overall, though it does dip into more serious topics at times. The acting is solid across the board, and the characters stay fairly true to the originals with added backstories and layers. Constance is a bit more modernized here, especially with her interest in learning to fight, which can feel a little out of place, but it works for the tone of the show. If you enjoy attractive people sword fighting, dramatic romance, easy humor, and a campy take on 17th century France, this is probably for you. Overall, it wins the spot for the best Musketeers show to watch if you want something light and campy to have on in the background when you get home from work. On its international debut through BBC One, it was the highest rated drama premiere of 2014, though reviews were mixed. Most people agree it improves if you give it a few episodes. It was 3 seasons, altogether 30 episodes, about an hour each, rated 14+. Now it's time for The Fourth Musketeer. This one was just boring. It moves extremely slowly and ultimately doesn't go anywhere. We start, as usual, with D'Artagnan heading to Paris, and by the end, we've barely gotten past the initial duel with the Musketeers. Unfortunately, the casting didn't work for me. No one really stood out and felt memorable. And there's barely any action. For a story that's supposed to be action-adventure, it feels more like watching a young man get repeatedly outplayed by a woman whose motives are never clearly explained. I've definitely seen adaptations make choices I disagreed with more, but this might be the weakest overall, simply because nothing happens. So yeah, I don't have anything else to say about this one. I couldn't find much information about this. It doesn't even have its own wiki page. If you've seen it and liked it, please let me know. I'm always open to hearing different perspectives. 85 minutes, rated 14+. Now, the Three Musketeers. I'm just going to come out and say it. This was truly awful and a waste of time. I'm confused about what this was trying to be. It feels like no one involved really cared about the final product. There's clearly a very small budget, which isn't necessarily a problem, but there's no creativity to make up for it. Some locations look nice, but we barely get to see them used. The script and acting are a joke. I started to wonder if this was a project everyone involved was forced to do. D'Artagnan in particular sounds like he's reading his lines for the first time, and unfortunately the rest of the cast isn't much better. The action is slow and poorly staged. It genuinely felt less convincing than kids just playing with foam swords. Needless to say, I struggled to finish this. If it weren't for this series, I probably would have stopped about 30 minutes in. Apparently, the final script ended up being very different from the original screenplay, leaning closer to a more simplified, Disney-style version of the story. Whether that improved or hurt it is debatable. Reviews are overwhelmingly negative. It's 99 minutes, rated 13+. Finally, the last on this list for now, The Three Musketeers. Part 1, D'Artagnan, and Part 2, Milady. These were released back to back and together tell the full story. Okay, this is the one. This version takes a much more grounded, serious approach, and it really works. It's darker, more dramatic, and strips away almost all the usual whimsy, but that's okay. This genuinely feels like a version of the story that could have actually happened. Even the more dramatic plot points are handled in a way that felt believable. The casting also feels right. Everyone looks age appropriate, which makes a huge difference, and D'Artagnan isn't instantly a master swordsman. He's skilled, but still learning, which I really appreciated. Visually, it's very muted. Lots of browns, dirt, and grit. Everyone looks like they actually live in this world, and like they all need a bath. As per usual, D'Artagnan and Constance have a very quick romance, but this version, easily some of the best chemistry I've seen between them. The fight scenes are fantastic. They're more brutal than swashbuckling, a little messy in a good way, and felt grounded. There is a bit of shaky cam, but not enough to take me out of it. Milady's costumes are stunning. Definitely more stylized than everyone else, and they stand out, but in a way that makes her feel even more dangerous. I would love to know how historically accurate they are. There are also quite a few side plots, like Aramis and his sister, and I liked those. They add depth without ever feeling like they were dragging the story down. So I'll be honest, at this point I was completely burnt out on this story. I had watched so many versions back to back, and I was done. And then this one came and pulled me right back in. This is without a doubt my favorite adaptation of all of them. They really did save the best for last. The two films were shot back to back over 150 days on locations across France, and there is a clear setup for a third installment, which we'll see if it happens. Interestingly, many of the actors have connections to previous adaptations, either directly or through family ties. Both films debuted as number 2 at the box office and had overwhelmingly positive reviews. Part 1 was 121 minutes, rated 16+. Part 2 was 115 minutes, rated 13+. And that's it. That's all the movie adaptations I could get my hands on for the Three Musketeers that have come out. If you still can't get enough, there are plenty of spin-offs, parodies, and animated versions out there. Thank you so much for watching. Please check out my channel to see what other movies and TV shows I'm currently marathoning. Happy watching!